Hi, welcome to another edition of Uplifting the Menopause Conversations. Today I have a really special guest, and her name is Shirley Waller. Am I right? Is that the way you pronounce it? Very good.
Yes, that's correct.
And it's my American accent. I bet you say that differently than me. But Shirley has worked for 38 years in the leisure industry. And she's in recently in health interventions manager, working in the NHS and Public Health on healthy lifestyles. I met Shirley through her work at Health Watch Berry when we met for a bunch of women met on a menopause awareness day. So I'm really excited to introduce you and to talk to you today, because what we're going to be discussing is the different aspects of menopause and how they affect us when we're in it and at each stage. So some people have it when they're very, very young, due to illness or to changes in in their ovaries, or they had a hysterectomy or something like that. So that's for somebody who gets it very young. Then there are people who are the normal age range, which I don't know, it's so normal, but they say it's between 45 and 55. And then there's some of us who get it for a longer period. And today we're going to be discussing the people who get it for a longer time. And Shirley has started at a normal age and continued until now. So could you give me a little bit more on that? Introduce yourself a little bit better than I did, maybe, because I'm sure you have more to say than me. But also, if you could tell me a little bit of the story.
Hi. I'm no longer working in the leisure industry, but I work for Health Watch Berry as a part-time engagement officer. So my job involves going out talking to people about their own experiences of health and social care. In terms of the menopause, I started about the age of 48, 49, and I was suffering a lot with hot flushes and night sweats, so much so that I was waking 12, 15 times a night, drenched in sweat. My sleep was very disturbed. I was working full time at that point, and it was a couple of days when I found myself in a complete brain fog, as they call it now. And I would turn up at meetings. I hadn't taken any minutes. I didn't even take a pen to write with or any note paper. And I thought that this can't go on. I was pretty sure it was menopause by that stage, because I do read quite a lot. So I went to my GP, who was a female doctor, fortunately, and she was very good. She printed off a load of information for me, told me to go away and read it, and then come back and talk about the options. There's pretty low risk factors in my family, so I did make a decision that I wanted to go on HRT, which I must say worked fantastically well for about 12 years, I think I was on it. It was during the pandemic when I contacted my GP to renew a prescription. She asked to do a video call with me and actually said it was time to come off it. I tried to research how long you could be on HRT because it was working very, very well for me, and could find virtually no information about the safe period you could be on HRT, unlike something like the early pill, for example. Because there was a lack of information, I had to take my GP's advice. I thought she knows more than I do. But I did ask if I could come off it very gradually, because I'd tried a couple of times to come off it, as I don't like taking medication, really. and the hot flushes had come back with a vengeance. So I took about 18 months cutting down to one every 2 days, one every 3 days, and widening the gap, which was just about manageable. Eventually, she said, I won't give you any more. So I did come off it completely.
So where are you, let's say, where are you up to now?
I'm 63 now. I came off, must have been 3 years ago. I'm still getting hot flushes, but they're nothing like as bad as they used to be. I don't find I've got other symptoms. So brain fog and things I don't think I'm suffering from at all. The hot flushes I do get, and they're uncomfortable. My temperature regulation is not great. I'll be taking my top off in a moment because I'm getting rather hot. But it's manageable. But it's only recently, since the conversations have opened up more about the menopause, and we've been getting more information through a couple of advisors in Bury, that have actually found out there is no good reason that you need to actually stop taking HRT. So I'm in two minds at the moment as to whether I want to try and go back on it, or maybe in a lower dose form, or whether I just get on with it now and try and manage it, because it isn't anything like as bad as it was 10, 15 years ago. Yeah.
Right. So let's go back a little bit. I mean, you were very lucky that you actually were able to review, to look into the medication and to understand what the HRT is, because most women actually don't have that experience. So you really, in that respect, you were really lucky that you had a doctor who was good at explaining it to you.
Yes.
And I mean, I personally didn't have that. So I had a completely different experience than you in that respect. But what did you feel? I mean, when you had, did you have I know you had the hot flushes, the brain fog, but were there other things before you went on to the actual HRT, or did you start it early enough? That's what I want to know.
Right. One of the symptoms I had, which I didn't understand what was going on, was a lesser known symptom called burnt tongue syndrome. So I felt like my tongue I'd drunk a too hot a drink, and my tongue was burnt. And this went on for a few weeks. So I probably didn't seek help probably for maybe 3 months.
Wow.
Since the hot flushes and the burnt tongue syndrome, until I got to that period where it was really unbearable and I couldn't function. When I got to that stage, I immediately contacted the GP and said, I think it's menopause symptoms, but she wanted to do a blood test to check that out first of all. Yes.
Wow.
So I did put up with it for 2 to 3 months. I'm a little bit hazy on the timescales because it's quite a while ago for me. But I do remember not understanding what was happening with my tongue.
You're talking around 15 years, yeah? 15, 16 years.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's what happens. But I think we all don't remember. I think, we all have our own stories, but then we can't remember exactly what happened when, but we know it all happened. But when you went to your GP, when you said to her, I'm going through the menopause, did she right away say, yes, that's, I could see that? Or?
No, she said, well, I want to take bloods and we'll check out your hormone levels to confirm whether it is or not. So I had an appointment a week later, and she said, yes, it's perimenopause at that time. Printed off a whole raft of documents for me and said, go away and read these. And the information went into detail about there's a 1% increased risk of certain cancers, but only if you've a family history of things like breast cancers. But there's a 1% lower risk of other types of cancers. But there wasn't a history in my family or my immediate family of anything that was a major risk factor. My weight, my blood pressure, everything else was okay. So I made the decision that I would like to go on to HRT.
And did you have to try a few different types until you got yours right, or?
No, the one she put me on seemed absolutely fine, and it does take 4 to 6 weeks, possibly a couple of months to actually kick in properly. But I did find it worked really, really well. Now, about 3 or 4 years before I came off HRT, they did start to have some supply issues and could no longer get the form of HRT I had been on. But again, it was quite an older style.
Which one were you
so on? I can't remember the name of it now.
Is it a gel or a pill or something like that?
No, it was a pill. It's the older type pills. She did give me an alternative, and again, that did seem to work without a problem for me. So I have not tried any of the newer form gels, patches, or anything. I've always taken a pill until about 3 years ago when I had to come off completely.
Wow. They said they were talking about this business that they're telling people to come off it, and it's a shame because you could really be on it long term. That's what they were saying to me anyway. So because there
seems to be there seemed to be a lack of information, and GPs, I think, were just a little bit nervous about letting you remain on it because of the lack of information. I think there's more information starting to emerge now, and women are starting to question as to whether that advice is correct or not, which I am doing. I have not made a decision yet as to whether I want to ask for another form of HRT or not.
My story is slightly different because I never went on HRT. I had a hysterectomy, and then the next day I had the hot flushes. I woke up and anyway, but I never went on HRT. And then recently I was getting all these symptoms all over again, and I couldn't handle it anymore. It just became worse than before. And I spoke to a few people, and I went on HRT. Now, recently, I went on the spray type, and I found a few weeks really, and I'm finding it so much better already. I feel better within myself, definitely. So I think the biggest problem we have is this issue of what age does it end. I remember yesterday.
Yes.
I went to my gynecologist for something else, and we were speaking, and I said, okay, so when is this finished? How many years do I have to go through this? And he said, well, actually, some people have it for years and years and years. There's no stop sign on it. And I think that's what we have to really get across, that it doesn't just stop one day. It doesn't start one day and end just overnight. It could go on for a long time, and we have to learn how to manage it when we're in the later stages. This is why I wanted you to come on to show that there are still options available to us.
I think all my girlfriends have finished and certainly didn't have the severity of the symptoms that I did, or if they did, it was only for a short period of time. So it is very different for every woman. And there does not seem to be any way of gauging how long it's going to be on for, which is the more upsetting aspect of it. That's why I kind of think, should I just get on with it? It's manageable. It's uncomfortable at times. It's a bit embarrassing if you're in a meeting and you still suddenly start sweating profusely. Or do I go back to my GP and say I want to try a patch or a gel or some of the low dose
Ones.
ones? Yes, and
Yeah.
see if that helps.
Decision. I think
Yes.
I also want to bring out that you've done a lot of research. I mean, you've given me, papers to give out to my ladies also. And I'd love you to talk about a little bit about this research that you're doing, to help women and to find the voice, what everyone's talking about. I think that's amazing, Shirley.
Yes, in my current role as an engagement officer with Health Watch Berry, there's a new women's health strategy. Saying it's new, it came out in 2022, but they've actually appointed an ambassador for women's health in England as well. And they're very conscious that women's health is predictable over the life scale. Everybody starts periods, they may go through childbirth, maternity services, they will have menopause in some form or other. The women suffer from certain types of cancers, cervical, breast cancers. They may suffer more from illnesses such as osteoporosis, bone thinning, again, hormonal related. So they're very conscious that women's health should be predicted better, but yet services are very, very disparate. You have to go to gynecologists for certain things. You may have to see somebody else for bone health. It's not joined up very well. And there's also a 2-year waiting list for gynecology services in the local area.
I waited 3 years.
Yes, that 2 years is generally, if it's marked routine. It's still 8 months if it's marked urgent. It's really not good enough, and there is this recognition that it isn't good enough. So we're doing a piece of work around finding out about local women's experiences, everything from girls at 11, 12-year-old when they start periods up to postmenopausal women, because there's an opportunity now to put in place some mini health hubs in the local area. And it's about what services do we need to improve on. And this is where we want to find out from local women where they have been struggling. So I know that sexual health services in Bury are not very good. The fitting of contraceptive coils, for instance, people are finding it very difficult to get them fitted. They're being passed from the GP to the sexual health service. They can't get appointments. I'm getting good comments about other services, such as mammograms and smear tests, for instance. People are quite positive about those services. But we can only report what people are telling us. So we are interested in hearing from as many women as possible in Bury and girls if they've experienced issues getting the right advice or treatment. So are girls being fobbed off if they're suffering from period pain and being told it's normal, take some paracetamol? Are people being offered antidepressants when they really need HRT because it's menopause? We need to hear from local women so we can report back and say, this is the picture in the Bury area. This is where we need services to improve.
How have you found the actual menopause research that you've done? Because it's interesting. I know you're doing in different areas, but what have you heard about the menopause? What was the reaction of women?
Right, I'm going to close my survey in the next couple of weeks, and I'll be pulling all the results off SurveyMonkey. Generally, there's a much better awareness now about menopause and current treatments. And part of that is down to the work that Jane is doing from Sixtown Housing and Shelley.
How do you
Yes.
Strachia.
Strachia.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
And Shelley.
Shelley, we had her on last time. Yeah. Shelley
yes.
Caulfield.
Caulfield, yes. The work that they are doing to raise awareness. And they have a programme of information and advice sessions at Castle Leisure Centre on a Tuesday. If anybody wants to attend those, I can send you through the latest programme for that. So there's a lot better awareness, but I have had women tell me that they were told they were depressed and they were offered antidepressants, for instance. I've had women who were possibly at the early menopause stage who were sent away from the GP and told, go away, you're too young. You know, again, it's very mixed experiences depending on different GP practices. So some GPs have more awareness than others. And my advice would be to, if you're not happy with the advice you've been given, you ask to see another GP.
Yeah, I keep on saying to everybody every time we do these things, I say, one thing you have to know, it's your health, and the only one who could advocate for you is yourself. So you have to push, keep on saying it. I'm really sorry. This is not good enough. I know my body, and I'm telling you that there's something not quite right. And just don't listen when they say, well, this is not this, this, not. You really have to fight your cause. I think that's so important. But yes, we've had Shelley, and we've had a few. I've gotten I've gotten to hear their stories and to talk to them, and they're so amazing. These women who are involved in the very, health initiative towards menopause. I think it's fabulous what they're doing, and I just can't stress enough that, first of all, whatever age you are, don't think that, oh, this doesn't make sense. Why am I still feeling this? It's normal, and go for, ask about it. Don't just let it, don't let a hot flush go on and on and on and on. When you could, there are things that we could do. There really is. It's not the end of the line for women. I mean, I know myself, when these hot flushes come along, like you say, you're sweating and you can't breathe. And I don't know about you, but I get a lot of the palpitations from it. So I'm thinking, oh, I can't breathe. Something is absolutely terrible with me, but it isn't. It's just, we'll get through it. We just have to know what it is. Then you could treat it. I think that's so important.
Yes, I am trying a couple of the advice around natural remedies, but decisions out on that, I'm not sure yet whether they work or not.
Let's hear a little bit. Which ones have you tried that would? Because there's so many available. Yeah,
I tried the magnesium and zinc.
Okay.
Because most women seem to be deficient in those areas. And that they're supposed to help with sleeping. So
I did a spray from that. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah, it's very good.
That.
Get it. It is really good. It's called Better You.
Right.
And you spray it on, and there's one for sleep. There's one for back, muscle aches. I do find that helps. So that's one thing.
Right. Okay. I'm currently on the sage tablets, which are supposed to help with hot flushes, but I'm not sure about them yet.
Okay, well, you have to write that one down. Sage.
Sage extract.
Okay. There's so many different. Somebody's told me about this black Kahash or something.
Oh, hush.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't.
Um,
Let's try that one.
I think I tried it very early on in my um, experiences, but again, I'm not entirely convinced about some of the natural remedies yet.
Yeah,
So
I know
I
that's the
would
problem.
be,
I think the
you know,
natural remedies take a longer time to show dividends.
possibly, yes. So I'm persevering, and if I do find that the sage tablets and magnesium and zinc do not work, then I think I may ask for a low dose
Yeah.
HRT again.
Did you
Yes.
ever speak to, by the way, to Dr. Zoe about any of this? Because she's really quite up to date with all that. So just putting it
I
out there. She's
I
very,
have spoken to her. I haven't had a formal consultation with her as yet. As I say, things are manageable, but at times a little uncomfortable.
yeah.
So
That's the
I'm
problem.
giving the natural remedies a go first, and
Yeah.
then I'll
I think, like you
see
said,
what I
each
want
of
to
us
do.
have to do our own way of coming to terms with it and doing what's right. But we do have to do something and not just leave it, because it's something that it does change your life, definitely. It has a lot of effect on how you live
Yes.
your everyday life. That's for sure. Even if it's small or large, it does have some kind of effect on each of us, and in whatever way it does. So tell me something before we come to the end of this. Could you give a go, something that somebody could take away? That's what I always ask. What would you say to your friend who's in the same position as you? What would you give her advice?
My advice would be to try and find sources of trusted information. Read as much as you can and make your own decisions. I do recommend Shelley and Jane's advice sessions that they're running at Castle Leisure Centre, and certainly up to July now, because there's a lot of women there bringing forward their own experiences and their own remedies, and you do get a lot of information, but I think everybody has to make their own decisions, and you can only do that when you have the correct information.
That's the truth. And I'm just going to say, because this is a show that goes on YouTube and it goes out all over the world, Castle Leisure Centre is in Manchester, in Bury, which is obviously very far from people in the USA. But I would still recommend that you find a place that they do talk openly about different aspects of menopause. That's why we have this podcast, to open up these conversations, so that's really what this was all about. And I hope you all enjoyed yourselves. And I really want to thank you. I want to thank you very much, Shirley, for coming and sharing your experience with us.